Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I will analyze the case of Liz and Michael Syperda. First I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Elizabeth Nicole Syperda was born on May 13, 1978, and lived in Truckee, California. She went by the name Liz. When she was 14 years old, she started babysitting two children of a man named Michael Lee Syperda and his wife Sally. The family lived in the same neighborhood as Liz. On August 23, 1993, Liz lost her father to cancer. A few years later, when Liz was 17 years old, Michael Syperda and his wife moved to Winfield, Iowa. This small town is 16 miles north of Mount Pleasant. Michael decided to take Liz with him, a move that caused tremendous distress for Liz's mother, Donna. In order to protect her daughter from Michael, Donna contacted social services, but her effort was unsuccessful. Liz moved to Iowa with Michael and lived in his house in Winfield. In May 1997, Liz graduated from a high school in Iowa. Donna attended the graduation ceremony and gave her daughter an emerald and diamond ring as a graduation gift. Later, this ring will play a key part in this case. Around the same time, Michael and Sally divorced, and Michael became romantically involved with Liz. Before moving to the timeline of the crime, let's hear a word from today's sponsor, Delete Me. Over the past few years, I have covered a number of stalking cases which involve the perpetrator easily finding personal information online. When people try to get this information removed, they find it's extremely time-consuming. Fortunately, there is a solution. Delete Me is a subscription service that can eliminate this type of personal information that is for sale online. They have the straightforward mission of removing customers' information from search results and upholding your right to manage and remove your personal information. The privacy experts at Delete Me work continually to remove information from hundreds of data brokers. This gets rid of your personal data like address, occupation, marital status, age, names of relatives, and so on. How does it work? Submit your information to Delete Me and their experts remove it. After that, they check every 3 months to make sure any new data are removed as well. If you want to get your personal information removed from search results on the web, go to joindeleteme.com/Dr. Grande. Delete Me is offering 20% off their privacy plans to all my viewers with code Dr. Grande. Again, that's joindeleteme.com/Dr. Grande, promo code Dr. Grande. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. Liz was friends with a woman named Harper Tracy, who she met at church. On 5 or 6 occasions, Harper noticed that Liz had injuries, which included finger marks on Liz's neck and bruises on her abdomen. Harper had a daughter named Sadie who was friends with Michael's children. Sometimes Sadie played at Michael's house in Winfield. One time when Sadie was 7, she visited Michael's house and saw Michael shove Liz down a flight of stairs. Harper indicated that one time Liz came to her trailer frantic and scared. Liz said that she had just been involved in a physical altercation with Michael and was afraid of him. Harper allowed Liz to stay with her in her trailer, which Liz did for a month. During that month, Michael stopped by the trailer almost every day and attempted to intimidate Liz. He would park his truck on the street very close to the trailer and make threats. For example, he said that he would keep Liz from his children, he would get rid of her, nobody would find her or even care that she was missing. Michael threatened to harm animals, and he left a note along with a broken cat collar. The note said that Liz would disappear like the cat. On at least 6 occasions, Harper witnessed Michael threaten to murder Liz and dispose of her body. Despite these numerous threats, Liz moved out of Harper's trailer and back into Michael's house. On January 31, 1998, Liz and Michael married. Michael immediately prevented Liz from seeing Harper. Liz told Harper that she was not allowed at Michael's house anymore in accordance with Michael's instructions. In June 2000, Liz traveled to California for her younger brother's high school graduation, as Michael remained in Iowa. While she was in California, Michael repeatedly called her. He was unhappy because he thought that her mother, Donna, was trying to convince Liz to stay in California. In an effort to satisfy Michael, Liz left her mother's house and stayed in the residence of a friend of hers named Shannon Gerber. Michael started calling Shannon's house and left so many messages that he filled up her answering machine. According to Shannon, many of these messages were threatening. For example, Michael said that he would murder both Liz and Shannon, as well as their family members, if Liz did not return to Iowa. Shannon was so worried about Liz, when it was time to take her to the airport, she drove on back roads so that Liz would miss her flight. As it turns out, the flight was delayed, so Liz boarded the aircraft and returned to Iowa. Liz started working for a company in Mount Pleasant, Iowa. While she was there, she met a coworker named Sarah Thomas, who was romantically involved with a woman named Terry. Sarah lived only 2 blocks from Michael's house. Liz and Sarah would ride together back and forth to work. During these commutes, Sarah noticed bruises on Liz's face, arms, and hands. Eventually, Liz and Sarah started a romantic relationship. One time when they were having sex in Michael's house, his children observed them through a keyhole in a door. When the women realized that their affair had been exposed, Liz moved her belongings to Sarah's apartment. Michael became enraged. He left over 30 messages on Sarah's answering machine, many of which were angry and filled with expletives. During a confrontation in a grocery store parking lot on June 16, 2000, Michael pulled Liz through the window of a vehicle, which left a mark on her abdomen. Liz managed to escape, fled to a nearby gas station, and called the police. Michael was arrested and charged with assault and first-degree burglary. A no-contact order was put in place, and Liz continued to stay in Sarah's apartment. Liz would not enjoy any peace in that location because Michael yelled names at her and Sarah from across the street. He also called Sarah's apartment 162 times. A month after the assault, on July 16, 2000, Sarah left for work at 10:30 p.m. Liz was sleeping on the couch at this time. When Sarah returned to her apartment at 4 a.m., now on July 17, she noticed that Liz was gone. Her purse, wallet, and other personal items were still in the apartment. Sarah called the police and reported Liz missing. Here is what the police found during the course of their investigation. Michael was an obvious potential suspect due to his long history of making threats against Liz, their tumultuous romantic relationship, their recent separation, and the assault that Michael conducted against her on June 16, 2000. The police questioned him. He denied any involvement in the disappearance of his wife. Investigators searched for Liz without success. No one had seen her, and she had not accessed her bank account. Law enforcement assumed Liz was dead. In September 2000, the police searched Michael's house. In a safe in his bedroom, they found the emerald and diamond ring that Liz had received from her mother, Donna, for graduating high school. In November 2000, Michael pleaded guilty in connection with the assault on Liz, which occurred on June 16, 2000. He was sentenced to 5 years of probation. The police believed that Michael was responsible for the disappearance of his wife, but he was not charged. Michael moved on with his life. He ended up 1,000 miles west in the town of Rifle, Colorado. 17 years later, in November 2017, Michael was indicted on the charge of first-degree murder. He was arrested in December of that year in Colorado. He opted for a bench trial, so a judge decided his fate. In June 2018, Michael was found guilty. His sentence was a term of life in prison without the possibility of parole. Michael appealed his conviction, arguing that there was no way to prove he committed first-degree murder. The state had no evidence of premeditation. If Michael was the killer, maybe the murder was committed in the heat of the moment. Michael's appeal was successful. His conviction for first-degree murder was reversed, and he was convicted of second-degree murder. His new sentence was 50 years in prison. Michael must serve a minimum of 30 years. The earliest he can be released from prison is February 26, 2053, when he will be 87 years old. Michael Syperda maintains his innocence, although he does not appear to have any supporters. If he did have supporters, they might argue that Liz was not murdered by anyone, like she was still alive, or she was murdered by someone other than Michael. The state, of course, disagrees. They argue that Michael's repeated threats point to him as the killer. This brings me to the question, was Michael guilty of murder? Let's take a look at the evidence both for and against the idea that he was guilty, starting with the inculpatory factors. Michael was demanding, controlling, manipulative, and had a long history of threatening his wife Liz. He was obsessed with her, and when she was away from him, he would repeatedly call her. Liz eventually found a female lover and left Michael, which sent him into a rage. On June 16, 2000, a month before Liz disappeared, Michael assaulted her. As part of the investigation into this incident, Liz was photographed. The emerald and diamond ring that her mother gave her for her graduation was visible on her hand. Liz always had this ring on her finger. She only took it off to bathe. Somehow this ring ended up in a safe in Michael's house. From June 26 to July 16, 2000, Michael called Sarah's apartment 162 times. Michael's last call to the apartment was on July 16 at 10:56 p.m. He just happened to stop calling right when Liz went missing. Why did Michael discontinue his calling activity at this particular moment? Perhaps he knew that Liz was dead because he murdered her. Michael told a friend of his that Liz stayed overnight on July 17 and left at around 5 a.m. He told his employer that he was sick and could not come into work that day. Maybe Michael was taking less of a sick day and more of a bury a body day. It is true that Liz was never found and could technically be alive, but the evidence strongly supports that she is dead. Liz never contacted anyone after she went missing. No one has seen her. She never picked up her final paycheck from work, never accessed her bank account, did not take her purse, wallet, or other personal belongings, and did not have access to a vehicle. Moving to the exculpatory factors, there was no evidence of a break-in at Sarah's apartment. The front door had been locked with a key. This makes it seem like Liz left voluntarily. Liz was having an affair at the time she disappeared. This is a dangerous proposition, which would have given many people a motive to kill her. That's pretty much it for the exculpatory factors. When considering all the evidence in this case, do I believe that Michael Syperda was guilty of murder? Yes, in my opinion, he was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. What do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. Michael Syperda was self-centered, manipulative, impulsive, irresponsible, angry, aggressive, violent, insecure, jealous, vindictive, petty, sadistic, cold, callous, had a sense of entitlement, and was exceedingly creepy. He targeted Liz when she was a teenager and eventually manipulated her into a romantic relationship. Michael may have been planning to be with her long before he divorced his wife Sally. Like having Liz move to Iowa with him was part of his brilliant scheme. Liz was vulnerable, naive, and believed that she was in love. She stayed with Michael even though he mistreated her. Eventually, the same impulsivity that facilitated Liz being with Michael led her to a new lover. This new relationship made Michael angry. He attacked Liz, and a no-contact order was put in place. This order was designed to protect Liz, but she repeatedly violated the order by visiting Michael's house for romantic interactions. Liz was ambivalent. She had strong feelings in two directions. She was afraid of Michael, but attracted to him at the same time. Michael was already dangerous to start with. This only made him more dangerous because now he believed there was hope of reconciliation. When Liz refused to reunite with Michael, he set up a meeting with her outside her apartment and killed her. Before disposing of her body, he removed her emerald and diamond ring. In a very unwise move, he put the ring in his safe. The evidence against Michael was compelling, but for some reason the state did not pursue charges. Michael moved on with his wife and ended up in Colorado. Years later, a detective was assigned to the cold case. He believed there was enough evidence, so charges were filed. It was that simple. There was no new evidence. Nothing had changed in the 17 years between the disappearance and when Michael was charged. He should have been arrested in 2000. The state of Iowa should not have waited 17 years. Michael completely believed that he had put the Liz disappearance situation in his rearview mirror. When he was arrested in Colorado, he was completely shocked. This is reflected in his mugshot. It looks like Michael was saying something like, "What? Arrested for murder? What happened? I don't understand." Later, the confused look would fade from Michael's face. He realized that he had not escaped the consequences of his homicidal behavior. Now moving to my final thoughts. The lesson learned in this case is about the danger of ignoring people who are trying to be of assistance. Liz was warned by just about everybody in her life that Michael was dangerous. Everyone knew that she was making a mistake by being with him, but she refused to listen. Sometimes people are attracted to those who will harm them, and there is nothing that can be done by outsiders to prevent the tragedy. Those are my thoughts on the case of Michael and Liz Syperda. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.